everyone, my name's Chantel. Thanks for tuning in. We have another monthly wrap up here. Today we are wrapping up the month of June. So I managed to tackle 5 different books for the month of June, which, considering how busy my schedule was, is actually a huge accomplishment. So of those 5 books, we've got a nice little mix. One was a thriller, we've got some romance, we've also got some fantasy in there as well, so let's get into it. The first book I read was Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This one is 416 pages. It is, I put it as fiction and romance, but I think it's classified more as romance. It follows 2 writers. So we've got Alice and we have Hayden, and both of them have been contacted by a woman named Margaret. So Margaret was actually like a tabloid heiress when she was younger. Like, the tabloids just couldn't get enough of her, and her family had money. So she used to always be in the tabloids, and then all of a sudden she disappeared. She just dropped off the face of the earth. Now, however many years later, she has contacted Alice and Hayden, both writers. Hayden's more successful. Alice is still trying to get her big break, but she's given them each a 1-month trial to see how she gets along with them and who she would like to write her book. That is the premise of most of the book. It does have like a rotating POV. So it touches Alice's, which is our main character, and it also goes into like Margaret's storytelling as like a POV. I'd say it's a nice balance between the two. It does remind me of Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. I did read that one. However, I actually liked Emily Henry's book better because with Rebecca Yarros's book, that one, it felt like you didn't have enough of each story, so you mashed them together, and they didn't mend very well. One of the things I like about The Great Big Beautiful Life was it felt more balanced. So you'd get more plot from Margaret's POV, but then you'd get the relationship development in Alice's POV. So one made up for the other, and I didn't find that it was lacking. I do like how Emily managed to jump back and forth between the 2 POVs. I found it more balanced and more seamless, which I liked more. I do also wish there was more of Alice's POV. I would have preferred more of a 50-50 balance, but I'm sure she did what she did for a reason. The reason I put this as fiction over romance in my books was because the female main character, like her POV, I thought it was like 40% of the book, maybe even less. So it was more of a romantic subplot. It does have the grumpy sunshine trope, but again, kind of in the background. I've always really loved Emily Henry's storytelling ability. Like, the plot themselves can be hit or miss for me. Sometimes I'm not really a big fan, but I am always a fan of how she writes and how she tells the story. I do kind of wish that there was like a family tree at the front of the book, because even the author herself references, oh, you're gonna need a family tree to follow this, but she failed to provide one. So I feel like she herself even knew they would be kind of confusing. So I gave it a 4-star. It was really good, but it was good when I was reading it, but when I wasn't reading it, like when I put it down, it wasn't staying in my mind. So that's why it's only a 4-star for me. The next book I read was Finale by Stephanie Garber. This is the 3rd in a series, so I can't give you too many details on like plot or anything like that without ruining the other 2. But it is the final book in the series. I loved it. 5 stars for me. It is a YA fantasy, about 416 pages. It does rotate POVs between the 2 sisters. So book 1 is with Scarlett, the first sister, the eldest sister. Book 2 is from Tella's point of view, and book 3 rotates between the 2. And I understand why the author did it, because she does need to clean up the loose ends, tie everything up, because they're ending the series. So I think it was a really smart way to do that. And it does give you a little bit more of each sister depending which one was your favorite. I'm definitely excited to read her next series, the Once Upon a Broken Heart. I gave it 5 stars, the Caraval series. It is YA fantasy, but like, you can't be mad about that because you knew that going into it. So I can't say anything in that regard. You get what you get. I did actually miss the aspect of Caraval. So Caraval was prevalent in both book 1 and 2. You're not going to see it so much in this book, in the 3rd one. They're focusing on cleaning up all the open ends that they have. I did also like the fates. I was kind of hoping for multiple love triangles. I thought that's where we were leading, and I didn't get that. So that was a little bit disappointing. Otherwise, though, I can't say anything else about it. It was 5 stars for me. Would recommend, and definitely reading her next series. Next book is a novel love story. This one's a romance book, 357 pages. I gave it 2 stars. I was very disappointed with this book. I actually really loved 7 Years Slip by Ashley Poston, and I had high hopes for this one. I heard a lot of positive feedback online, and when it came to reading it myself, it didn't meet up. It didn't link up. It didn't meet expectations. First off, let me tell you what the book is about. We have our main character, Eileen. She is going to a cabin in rural New York, and all her friends bailed on her. They all have better plans, apparently, and they always do this book club in the woods. So she decides to go by herself. Rain hits really hard. She gets lost on the road, ends up taking a little side exit, and ends up in this tiny little town. And she gets confused because it turns out the tiny little town that she ended up in is the setting from her favorite book. She's walking around and she's awestruck by all these characters being real life people, all these actual establishments existing, and it's pretty much her walking around and trying to make sense of it all. So she's awestruck. She's trying to walk around, make sense of it all. Her characters are real people, all the establishments exist, and she is over the moon, but very confused. Now, why didn't I like the book? First things first, the main character is giving pity party vibes. I felt like it was looking for pity, and I didn't like that. Also, I feel like her best friend, Prudence, is a ghost character. She's constantly reminiscing on stories with her and Prudence, but like we barely even see Prudence. So why is the most important person in your life not existing in this story? That's what I can't get behind. Also, I didn't like how Prudence dropped Eileen for her boyfriend to go off to Iceland and left her all by herself to go on this trip in the woods. That didn't sit right with me. This book would be categorized as a slow burn, but I don't feel like the chemistry was there. Like, there wasn't enough build up for it to truly be a slow burn. It was just like teasing you the whole way through. The male main character, his name is Anders, and honestly, I feel like Eileen was more in love with the town than she was with Anders, and he was supposed to be her love interest in this romance story. So I also found that disappointing. I do also feel like the book is giving, I settled for second best. I won't go into more details on that because if you've read it, you'll understand. The premise of the book is in line with the author's whimsical style. That didn't surprise me. I was just hoping for more of a performance, I guess. It disappointed me. And 7 Year Slip is one of my 5-star reads that I would recommend to everybody. So that's also, maybe I just set the bar too high, and I will admit, because I loved that book and it was the last book of hers that I read, this a novel love story book, it definitely had large shoes to fill. So 2-star for me, not the book of my summer, but I do see a lot of people enjoying it, so that doesn't mean that you should steer clear of it. Very whimsical style. If you are really into, like, I guess, I was gonna say if you're really into books, but of course you are if you're watching this video. It's just like your imagination coming to life. If that sounds like something you'd love, then probably read this book. But for me, it didn't hit the mark. All right, next up, Piranesi. This one, I think I'm saying that right. I hope I'm saying that right. It's a really short book, if you can't tell. 245 pages. It's deemed fantasy. Really, it follows a man stuck in a labyrinth. We don't really know what's going on. I mean, you have a little bit of common sense from like your own personal brain, so you can piece together a picture. But what we get from the book is only ever what Piranesi is experiencing. So he also has amnesia because he's been in the labyrinth so long. That's just one of the, what's the word? One of the side effects for it is amnesia in regards to everyday life. So he will remember how to fish and stuff like that, but he's forgetting more and more of things that happened. So it's really hard piecing together what's happening because your main character has amnesia. It's pretty much, it's giving one-man band a little bit because you're stumbling around, and yes, other characters do show up, but primarily it just follows Piranesi around. I gave it 3 stars. It had a really slow start, and I don't think that's good considering how short the book was. 245 pages, that's a pretty short book. I actually picked it up because I was nearing the end of June, and I was like, oh, I'd really like to get another one in before the end of the month. So I picked this one up off of my TBR because of how short it was. But it had a really slow start to it, and I feel like with the length of the book, that is a con against it. If you actually looked up and like tallied up all the words in this book, I feel like a good 20% of them is just describing. So like numbers or the hall northwest. Like I feel there's a lot of word repetition in here, and half the time I would skim over the numbers because I am not going to remember like 180 different halls. So I just went off of descriptions of the halls, not the numbers. Like he was giving directions and numbers of how many halls north and stuff like that, and I would just kind of skim that part because it was like half a line and I was not keeping track. Like I'm not in the labyrinth. I don't need to know how to get out. I just get the gist of what is in that labyrinth. That's like 20% of those words probably could have been knocked off for sure. So right off the bat, I saw Madeline Miller is on the reviews on the back, and I know she does kind of like Greek mythology. So I was wondering, is this book Greek mythology? So I did a little bit of research. Turns out the book is actually named after Giovanni Piranesi, who did some artwork back in the day. And one of his artworks was named The Labyrinth. Let me check. One of Giovanni's artworks was named The Prison, the Imaginary Prison. So that one, it looks exactly like how she describes The Labyrinth. Pretty much that work of art is what inspired this book. Is it related to Greek mythology? I don't think so, like besides the labyrinth idea and minotaurs. But I couldn't find any like characters in the mythology that it mirrored. But if you know of any, let me know because I'm definitely not the biggest mythology buff. I did like at the end, it does nicely touch the struggles that victims can have. I don't know if I can go into more without ruining the ending. So, we'll just leave it at that. It does go into a little bit about how victims can struggle in recuperating. So I do like how it touched that. It was a 3-star read for me though. It definitely got more interesting towards the end, but the beginning is a little dry for me. The last book I read this month was This Book Will Bury Me. This is a new release of this year, and I have mixed opinions about it. I read this book and I loved it. Let's go into it a little bit more, and then I'll tell you why I think it's a little controversial. So the plot of this book is we've got Jane. She is our main character. She has recently lost her father to a heart attack. So she goes into a bit of a downward spiral trying to cope with grief, and her mother's doing the same as well. So Jane drops out of school. She moves back home and she starts... It all starts by just being in the living room at the wrong time. Just this newscaster pops on and is talking about one of the murders that happened somewhere. She lives in Florida, so I believe it was in her town or like the town next door. And she gets interested and she goes online and she's doing all this research because she's tying this death to her father's death and how the family of the victim must be suffering just as much as she is, but even maybe more because they don't have closure. So she starts going down this rabbit hole. She ends up on like subreddits, and they have this other forum. I don't remember what it was called, but it's essentially the same thing. Oh, true crime forum. She ends up on this true crime forum and realizes that like these people are hardcore. So they're like amateur sleuths on the internet. Long story short, she becomes one of them. They become her found family. There's like 5 of them in total. That's her found family. Once they do the solving of their first crime, she's hooked. And it just spirals from there. And I can't give away the ending, but it becomes more of like a thriller, and no, I can't say anymore. We're just gonna say thriller about whodunit. I really liked it. When I read it through, I enjoyed the whodunit aspect. I used to watch a lot of CSI as a kid, so it reminded me a little bit of that, a little bit of Criminal Minds, right? Amateur style though, because now everyone on the internet thinks they're professional. But after I read the book, I did a little bit of research, right? And, well, first things first, I went into my Goodreads and I put in my rating, and I don't really leave discussions like written reviews, because that's what I do on here. So I just put in my rating, and I saw a couple 1 stars, and I started scrolling, a lot more 1 stars. And it turns out this book strongly mirrors an actual serial killer. And I didn't know how I felt about that. Like, to the point where when I searched up the wiki page of the actual murders, the picture that it had, I recognized. Why did I recognize it? Because the author fully described that picture in the book. I feel her book was a little too close to something that was real, and I don't know, people died, and not enough was changed in the book. It feels like she pretty much saw this on the news and was like, I like that story, let's make it into a book. So that's why I feel like it's controversial, because it's like when you watch the Ted Bundy movie or something like that, like, yeah, it's a little insensitive, I guess. I enjoyed it when I thought it was fiction. When I realized it wasn't exactly fiction, it made me feel a little uneasy. Got myself a little guest star. Yeah. If we move past the controversial aspect of the book and more on the writing style, did have good, easy to read short chapters. Okay, calm down. Also did do a good job of portraying vulnerability for the main character. Okay, you stay back there. Little nugget. The footnotes were either adding resources or like referencing a future timeline. We also, there's definitely a trigger warning for this book in regards to grief. So if you're struggling with grief, maybe not the book for you. But if you want a good crime story, I would recommend it if you can get past the fact that it is essentially a true crime. I feel like the majority of the book is like preamble. It's almost giving like anecdotes, situational anecdotes in Criminal Minds and stuff like that. It was entertaining, but it's just getting to the main plot at the end of the book. Definitely drops a lot of Easter eggs. I kind of wish there wasn't the future Jane POV. That ruined a lot of things for me, just in regards to not so subtle hints. Also, there is a lot of Star Trek lore in reference to her father, so if that's up your alley, you'll pick it up. If it's not, that's okay. I'm not much of a Star Trek fan. I don't really have any exposure to it, so I made it through just fine. So don't let that deter you. Deter you? Defer you. Don't let it stop you. I actually do really like how there's so many little Easter eggs and seeds planted throughout it. That was one of the reasons that I enjoyed it so much and gave it 5 stars, was because I felt it was a carefully constructed thriller, mystery, whodunit type of thing. Also, side opinion, or side comment, what is up with this book cover? Like, it's just a car going down a highway, and of all the book covers in the world, you could have found something a little bit more relevant, in my opinion. That's literally me picking at like littlest details. We're really looking under the microscope at that point. However, though, this book does put Ashley Winstead on my radar. I've never read any books from her besides this one. I would be interested to know what her other books are like. So I know on here it had In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, I guess is one of her more famous ones. Because, I mean, best-selling author of in my dreams I hold a knife. But I wonder if her other books closely mirror real tragedies or really like true crime, or if this is the only one. If it's the only one, might give it a pass. If all of her books are written like that, I'm just gonna have to take it with a grain of salt while I read it. So I did give it 5 stars. That was because I didn't know about the controversy, and I wish there was a disclaimer at the front. I don't think there is. If there was, I zoomed right by it. A bunch of praise. Bunch of, like, oh my, so many. No. Okay. Actually, at the very beginning, there's a note to the author. I'll be honest, I don't read those. So there is a disclaimer saying it is true crime, and it does mirror things, and it does say that it goes into why she wrote about it. I'm not sure I agree with it, but I'm glad she does put the disclaimer on it because it is very important. I skipped over that. I'll be honest. That's on me. That is my fault. If I want to roast something, I should probably do the homework. You know, read the note to author. But I honestly didn't even realize it was based on a true crime until I was in the Goodreads and the reviews. But if you're putting it right at the front of the book, I feel that's better because it's not saying it's okay, but it's saying if this is sensitive to you, if it does bother you, don't continue. It's like a trigger warning. So respect for that. I will be looking at her other books. I am interested to see the style of books and kind of where she came up with those ideas. But she did disclaim it, just so you know. So I'll leave my 5-star rating on it, and I actually enjoyed the whodunit aspect, so there's that. That leaves all 5 of my June reads. So thanks for watching. Right now I'm only doing monthly wrap-ups. I'm really trying hard to get more than that, but I think I'm gonna put more on TikTok for now. So if you want to check me out on TikTok, you can do that. Otherwise, you'll definitely see a July monthly wrap-up at the end of July. And if you want to comment down below books you want to see me read, I've got my TBR full for now, but I will definitely put it on my radar if you leave a comment. Or if the book you comment is already in my TBR, I will bump it further up. So leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you next month. Bye!